She arrived as a mail-order bride by accident, the kind of mistake that makes you question fate itself. When the man she believed was her groom stared at her like unwanted cargo, humiliation burned through her veins. But instead of fleeing back east, she stayed. She found work, learned to clean houses, and swept floors as if sweeping away her shame. The townspeople whispered, but she held her head high. Have you ever felt like you didn't belong anywhere? Keep reading. This story might just change how you see second chances. Summer 1882 scorched Copper Ridge, Montana, but nothing burned hotter than the curiosity sparked when Marcus Brennan stepped off the afternoon stage. At 24, he possessed the soft hands of a Boston clerk and the wide-eyed wonder of someone who'd never seen real mountains. Marcus clutched a worn leather satchel and a letter from his uncle Silas, 8 words that had changed everything. Come west, boy. Time you learned to be a man. You must be the nephew, came a gruff voice. Marcus turned to find Silas Brennan, tall, weathered, immovable. His handshake could crack walnuts. You're even greener than I expected, Silas said. Let's get you to the ranch before you wilt. The wagon ride took 40 minutes through endless prairie grass and looming mountains. This land will test every inch of you, boy, Silas warned. Strip you down to what you really are underneath all that city polish. The ranch house came into view, sturdy timber with a wide front porch. The screen door creaked open, and out stepped Catherine Vale. At 26, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd weathered storms and emerged stronger. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, her calico dress faded but spotlessly clean. What struck Marcus most were her eyes, sharp as a winter morning and twice as unforgiving. So this is the apprentice, she said, wiping flour-dusted hands on her apron. Looks like he'd blow away in a stiff breeze. Catherine, meet my nephew Marcus, Silas said. Marcus, this is Miss Vale. She keeps the house running and the rest of us in line. She looked him up and down like livestock. You ever worked with your hands, boy? I clerked in a shipping office for 3 years. Marcus replied defensively. Clerking? She said it like it was a disease. A few weeks out here, and you'll either toughen up or head back east with your tail between your legs. My money's on the tail. Want to know what happens when a sharp-tongued housekeeper meets a stubborn city boy? The sparks are just beginning. The first week played out like a comedy of errors. Marcus tumbled down the hayloft ladder. Graceful as a 3-legged cat, Catherine remarked. Use your legs instead of your back and try not to lean backward while lifting. During cattle branding, he got kicked repeatedly. You're wrestling with them like they're your mortal enemy, Catherine called out. Calm down, hold firm, and it'll be over before you know it. Thursday's disaster occurred in the kitchen. Marcus confused salt and sugar, added coffee grounds directly to the pot, and created a gritty nightmare. If you keep cooking like that, the coyotes will send thank you notes, Catherine said, rolling up her sleeves. Step aside before you accidentally set something on fire. Feeling inspired by Marcus's persistence? Sometimes the best transformations come from the hardest lessons. Friday brought ranch legend, the great milking disaster. Marcus somehow ended up beside a young bull instead of the cow. The bull panicked, sending Marcus flying backward. Catherine arrived just in time. Sweet Jesus, she gasped, then burst into laughter. Did you just try to milk Apollo? Apollo? The bull, you nincompoop. For 3 days, Marcus couldn't walk past the barn without comments about his milking technique. Catherine was merciless. Pass the butter, assuming you can tell the difference between butter and bull. Despite the teasing, something shifted between them. Her jokes carried less malice and more affection. Have you ever wondered if teasing could be a form of affection? Sometimes love starts with laughter. Marcus learned about Catherine's past in Henderson's general store. 2 women gossiped near the fabric counter. Did you see her reaction when those photography fellows mentioned Billings? Whispered Mrs. Putnam. Went white as fresh cotton. Guess it brought back memories of that whole mail-order bride business. Marcus's hand stilled. Mail-order bride? 4 years ago, Mrs. Putnam continued. Poor girl traveled from Kansas, thinking she was marrying Joseph Drummond. Only the letter got mixed up somehow. Wrong directions, wrong ranch, wrong everything. Can you imagine? Standing there with her traveling bag, all dressed up, and the man tells her he never sent for any bride. Joseph offered to put her up until she could arrange passage home, but her pride was too wounded. Instead of going back to Kansas, she stayed and found work with old Silas, made the best of a bad situation. But you know how people talk. The bride nobody wanted. That's what they called her. That tongue of hers is sharp enough to cut leather. Marcus paid for his supplies in a daze. Everything suddenly made sense. Catherine's sharp edges, her quick wit that cut before anyone could cut her, the way she deflected personal questions. She had built walls around her heart, protecting herself from ever being hurt that way again. Have you ever built walls to protect yourself from pain? Sometimes the strongest people carry the deepest wounds. That evening, Marcus found Catherine washing dishes. He picked up a dish rag and began drying. "I heard something in town today," he said carefully. Her hands stilled. "Did you now?" "About you. About why you came to Copper Ridge." She turned to face him. "And? I'm sorry. That must have been difficult. Difficult, humiliating, devastating. But difficult works. I can't believe any man would." "Would what? Turn away a woman who showed up unannounced and unwanted?" Joseph Drummond was a perfect gentleman. The mistake wasn't his fault any more than it was mine. But still nothing. It happened. I dealt with it. I moved on. End of story. Is it though? Moved on, I mean? She gripped the sink edge. "What exactly are you asking me, Marcus?" "I'm asking if you still carry that pain around. If you still feel like the bride nobody wanted." The silence stretched between them. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter than he'd ever heard it. "Do you know what it's like to have your entire future planned out, only to have someone look at you like you're damaged goods delivered to the wrong address? Do you know what it's like to have a whole town know your most embarrassing moment?" "No," he admitted, "but I know what it's like to feel like you don't belong anywhere. Like you're not quite good enough for the life you want." She turned slowly, studying his face. "Is that how you feel?" "Every day since I got here. Maybe every day before that too. The difference is I chose to come here. You got thrown into it by a mistake. A mistake that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me," she said, surprised by her own words. "How do you figure?" She was quiet. "Because it taught me that I don't need a man to rescue me. I can rescue myself. I can make my own way in the world, earn my own living, and hold my head up no matter what people say behind my back. That's a hard way to learn independence. The best lessons usually are. Besides, if I'd married Joseph Drummond, I never would have met a city boy foolish enough to try milking a bull. And where's the fun in that?" They both laughed. "For what it's worth," Marcus said, "I think Joseph Drummond is a fool. Any man who wouldn't want you is either blind or stupid, probably both." She looked startled, then suspicious. "Careful, Cowboy. Flattery sounds strange coming from a man who can't tell a cow from a bull." "It's not flattery if it's true." Ready to see how a broken heart learns to trust again? The best part is still ahead. September arrived with crisp morning air. Marcus now had confidence in his abilities. He could saddle a horse, mend a fence, and milk an actual cow without embarrassing himself. Then everything changed. They found Silas collapsed in the kitchen, clutching his chest, breathing in short gasps. "It came on sudden," Catherine said, her composure cracking. Marcus knelt beside Silas. "Benton, ride to town and fetch Doc Morrison. Tell him it looks like Silas's heart. Catherine, help me get him to his bed." "Since when do you give orders around here?" Catherine snapped, but she was already moving. "Since there's nobody else to give them," Marcus replied. Doc Morrison arrived within the hour. "Hart's been working too hard for too long. He needs complete rest for at least 6 weeks. No stress, no excitement, and absolutely no ranch work." Catherine sank into a chair. 6 weeks. The cattle drive to Billings is scheduled for next month. The winter feed orders need to be placed, and so the bank payment is due in October. "Then somebody else will have to handle it," Doc Morrison said. "Because if Silas tries to do ranch work anytime soon, the next time I see him will be to pronounce him dead." After the doctor left, Catherine said, "I suppose this is where you pack your bags and head back to Boston." "Why would I do that?" "Because you're not ready to run a ranch, city boy. This is about payrolls and cattle prices and men who will test every decision you make." Marcus looked out over the land. "You're right. I'm not ready. But Silas needs this place to survive, and so do you, and so do all the men who work here. Pretty sentiment. Won't pay the bills. Then we'll learn together. You know more about running this place than you let on, and I'm tired of being the greenhorn who can't handle responsibility. We? Since when is there a we in this arrangement? Since I stopped being just Silas's nephew and started being someone who belongs here. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, maybe, or the beginning of respect. Belonging and managing are two different things, Marcus. Then teach me the difference. Want to know if they save the ranch? The stakes have never been higher. The next morning brought the first real test. Jake Morrison approached with a problem. We got trouble with the north pasture fence. Looks like someone cut the wire deliberately. Cattle are scattered from here to Sunday. Rustlers? Could be. Or could be that new settler Crow trying to make a point about property lines. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Gather the men. We'll ride out and assess the damage. And Jake, bring rifles just in case. The ride revealed the full scope. 200 yards of fence systematically cut, 30 head of cattle missing. This is Latham Crow's work, Benton said. He's been claiming that creek bed belongs to him since spring. Marcus studied the damaged fence. The old Marcus would have sent someone to fetch Silas. The new Marcus made a different choice. Jake, take half the men and start rounding up the scattered cattle. Benton, you and the others come with me. We're paying Mr. Crow a visit. Latham Crow emerged from his ramshackle cabin, a tall, lean man with an impressive mustache. Well, if it isn't the Boston boy playing rancher, where's old Silas hiding? Mr. Crow, Marcus said, dismounting but keeping his hand near his rifle. We have 30 head of cattle missing and 200 yards of cut fence. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Can't say I would. Cattle wander. Fences break. Fences don't cut themselves in straight lines. Crow's eyes narrowed. You accusing me of something, boy? A month ago, Marcus might have backed down, but not now. I'm saying 30 head of Silver Creek cattle are on your land, and I want them back. Now. And if I say no, then I ride to town and file a complaint with Sheriff Martinez. He investigates, finds the cattle, discovers you've been stealing from your neighbors. You lose the cattle, face criminal charges, and probably lose this homestead too. Or you return the cattle now, pay for the fence repairs, and we forget this happened. For a tense moment, only the wind made sound. Then Crow's shoulders sagged. 30 head, you said? 30 head plus $50 for fence repairs and lost time. 25, 40, final offer. Crow spat in the dust. Done. But this don't make us friends, Boston boy. Wouldn't dream of it, but it makes us neighbors who respect each other's property. Feeling the tension? Sometimes standing your ground is the only way forward. October painted Montana in gold and crimson. Catherine overheard town gossip suggesting she was a calculating woman who sets her sights on whatever man happens to be convenient. That evening, Marcus found her working out her frustration on innocent bread dough. You know what the worst part is? She said, punching the dough. Part of me wonders if they're right. Right about what? About me being calculating, about setting my cap for you because you're convenient. Marcus looked up. Are you? She paused. I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter? It matters to me, because I'd rather be wanted for myself than for my convenience. But more than that, I'd rather you be honest about what you want instead of letting gossip make you second-guess your own heart. My heart doesn't factor into ranch management decisions. Doesn't it? Then why do you look disappointed when I talk about maybe going back to Boston someday? She spun around. You've been watching my face? I've been watching everything about you. The way you hum when you're content. The way you get that little line between your eyebrows when you're worried. The way you smile when you think nobody's looking. Stop. The way you care about this ranch and everyone on it. Even when you pretend you're just doing a job. I said stop. The way you've made this place feel like home in a way Boston never did. Marcus, I mean it. I love you. The words hung in the air. Catherine stared at him, flour-dusted hands suspended. You what? I love you. Not because you're convenient. Not because you happen to be here. Because you're brave and funny and strong, and you make every day better just by being in it. She sank into a chair. You can't love me. Why not? Because I'm the bride nobody wanted. Because I've got more sharp edges than a broken bottle. Because you're going to wake up someday and realize you could do better. Catherine, you're an idiot. Her mouth fell open. I beg your pardon? You're an intelligent, capable woman who can manage a ranch, face down rustlers, and make biscuits that would make angels weep. But when it comes to your own worth, you're a complete idiot. Any man who didn't want you was too stupid to deserve you, including Joseph Drummond. She glared at him. Meaning what exactly? Meaning you would have been wasted on him. You're meant for better things than being some rancher's quiet little wife who keeps house and asks no questions. You're meant to be a partner, an equal, someone who builds something bigger than either of you could manage alone. Pretty words. True words. She looked up at him, uncertain for the first time. What if you're wrong? What if I'm not worth all this feeling? Then I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. She was quiet, studying his face. What if I hurt you? What if you don't? What if I disappoint you? What if you don't? What if... Catherine, stop borrowing trouble and answer one question. Do you love me? Another long silence then, so quietly he almost missed it. Yes. Say it again. I love you. God help me. I love you too. He cupped her face in his hands. Then the gossips can go hang themselves. All that matters is us. Partners. Equals. Whatever comes next. She laughed. Her real laugh, not the defensive one she used as armor. Lord help us both. Do you know what you're getting yourself into? A lifetime of arguments, sharp wit, and the best biscuits in Montana. I can live with that. She stood and kissed him then, flower and all, and Marcus thought that he finally understood what it meant to be exactly where you belonged. Are you feeling the romance? Sometimes the best love stories come from the most unexpected places. The wedding took place on a crisp November morning. When Reverend Morrison asked if anyone had reason why the couple should not be wed, Mrs. Wheeler actually opened her mouth, only to be silenced by a sharp elbow from Mrs. Putnam. When asked if Catherine would take Marcus as her lawfully wedded husband, she paused just long enough to let the congregation hold its breath before grinning and saying, "Well, I suppose someone's got to keep him from milking the wrong end of a cow." The church erupted in laughter, and for the first time since arriving in Copper Ridge, Catherine laughed along with them. Their first months of marriage coincided with one of the harshest winters in recent memory. They quarreled over everything: money, priorities, his tendency to track mud through the house, her habit of leaving coffee grounds in the pot. But these disputes served to establish the rhythm of their marriage. Every argument ended the same way, with both of them sitting at the kitchen table, too stubborn to apologize, but too committed to stay angry. "We argue a lot," Marcus said. "We do," Catherine agreed. "But we keep sitting down together afterward. Seems like that has to count for something." Wondering if they make it through the hard times, the best is yet to come. Spring brought new challenges. The bank payment came due just as a late blizzard killed 30 head of cattle, wiping their profit margin. "We're $200 short," Catherine announced. "Options? Sell some breeding stock, take out a loan at rates that'll kill us next year, or convince the bank to extend the payment deadline." The trip to Copper Ridge First Bank was an exercise in controlled desperation. Banker Harrison Caldwell reviewed their application with distaste. "Young man, this ranch has been marginal for 3 years running. Your uncle's illness created additional expenses, and now you're asking for an extension on a payment you should have planned for months ago." "All true," Marcus admitted, "but we've also increased productivity, resolved the rustling problems, and positioned ourselves for a profitable year if we can weather this temporary shortage." Temporary shortage. Every failing ranch claims their problems are temporary. Catherine leaned forward and fixed the banker with her cattle stare. "Mr. Caldwell, let me explain something about temporary versus permanent. Permanent is what happens when you foreclose on a ranch that's been making steady improvements. Permanent is the reputation you get for destroying local businesses over short-term cash flow problems. Permanent is what will make sure everyone in this county knows about your banking practices if you force us into bankruptcy over $200. Caldwell blinked. "Are you threatening me, Mrs. Brennan?" "I'm explaining the mathematics of small-town business. You can extend our payment deadline by 60 days and earn interest on the full amount Or you can foreclose now and explain to your other customers why the Silver Creek Ranch is up for auction because you couldn't show flexibility to a couple who's improved every aspect of the operation. There was a long silence. Then Caldwell cleared his throat. 60 days at an additional 2% interest. 1%, Catherine countered. 1.5. Deal. The third year of their marriage brought unexpected happiness. The ranch was finally showing consistent profits. Silas's health had stabilized. Their partnership had evolved into something that felt as natural as breathing. It also brought a silence that grew louder with each passing month. Doc Morrison says there's nothing wrong with either of us, Catherine announced one evening. We're both perfectly healthy, perfectly capable of having children, and perfectly mystified about why it's not happening. Maybe it's just not the right time, Marcus offered carefully. When is the right time? When I'm 40, 50, when we're too old to chase a toddler around the barnyard? Do you know what Mrs. Wheeler said to me yesterday? Maybe that wrong bride was cursed, as if my past somehow disqualified me from having a family. Mrs. Wheeler is an idiot. Maybe. Or maybe she's right. Maybe I'm being punished for something. Maybe I don't deserve. Stop. Marcus caught her mid-pace. You deserve every happiness in the world, including children. If it doesn't happen, it won't be because you don't deserve it. Then why? I don't know why, but I know that beating yourself up about it won't change anything. She leaned against him. I just feel so empty sometimes, like there's this space inside me that's supposed to be filled with something important, and it's just not. I know. Every time I see Jake Morrison's little boy helping with the horses, I imagine teaching our son to ride. Every time Mrs. Patterson brings her daughter to town, I picture you braiding our daughter's hair. So yes, I know what you mean about the empty space. They held each other in the lamplight kitchen. Two people who had found everything they thought they wanted except the one thing they wanted most. What if it never happens? Catherine whispered. Then we'll have each other, and we'll make that be enough. But fate had been listening. 6 weeks later, Catherine woke up feeling dizzy and nauseated. When the symptoms persisted for a week, she began to suspect something more significant. Dr. Morrison confirmed her suspicions with a gentle smile. Congratulations, Mrs. Brennan. I'd say you're about 2 months along. Catherine sat in stunned silence. Mrs. Brennan, are you all right? She started laughing. I'm going to have a baby. Yes, you are. Probably sometime in February. February. I'm going to have a February baby. She found Marcus in the barn working on a saddle. He looked up, immediately noticing something different in her expression. How did the doctor's appointment go? Well, he says I'm perfectly healthy. Both of us are perfectly healthy. Both of you, me and the baby. The leather punch slipped from Marcus's suddenly nerveless fingers. Baby? February baby, according to Doc Morrison. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Marcus crossed the barn in 3 strides and swept her into his arms, spinning her around until she was dizzy with laughter. A baby! We're going to have a baby! Can you feel the joy? Sometimes the best blessings come after the longest waits. February brought their daughter during a blizzard that trapped Doc Morrison at the ranch for 3 days. Little Adeline arrived red-faced and wailing, with her father's stubborn chin and her mother's fierce spirit. She's got lungs like a steam engine, Catherine observed, exhausted but radiant. Heaven help us all. That's very romantic, Catherine. I'm not a romantic woman, I'm a practical woman. And practically speaking, that girl's gonna give us a run for our money. Years later, when Adeline asked how her parents met, Catherine would smile and say, "Through the post office, sweetheart. Worst way to find a husband, but the best mistake I ever made." And Marcus would add, "Your mother taught me that sometimes the best things in life come from the mistakes we make and the courage to stay when everyone expects you to leave." Is that why you stayed, Mama, even when people were mean? I stayed because leaving would have meant giving up on myself, and I stayed because this place, and eventually your father, became worth fighting for. And what about you, Papa? Why did you stay? Marcus would look at his wife and daughter, at the ranch they'd built together, at the life they'd created from mistakes and determination and love, and he'd smile. I stayed because I finally found where I belonged, and because your mother makes the best biscuits in Montana. Marcus, and because I love her more than anything in this world. Better, Catherine would say, but she'd be smiling. And Adeline would grow up knowing that sometimes the best love stories don't start with perfection. They start with mistakes, persistence, and two people brave enough to build something beautiful from broken pieces. Did this story touch your heart? Share it with someone who needs to hear that second chances are real and that mistakes can become miracles. Sometimes the best love stories are the ones that start with rejection and end with redemption. Want more inspiring stories of courage, love, and transformation? Follow us for more tales that remind you that your past doesn't define your future. Your choices do. Remember, you are not the mistakes that happen to you. You are what you choose to build from them.